Are you sick and tired of your projects always running late, no matter how carefully you plan them? I mean, what if I told you there's a different way of doing things? A method that's actually designed to deliver projects on time, pretty much every single time. Well, that's exactly what we're going to get into today in this explainer on the critical chain method.
Right, it's the million-pound question, isn't it? You've got the perfect Gantt chart, the work breakdown structure is a masterpiece, you've got your A-team ready to go, and yet somehow you're always scrambling at the finish line. It's a universal pain for us in this profession. But what if the problem isn't our planning, but the very human psychology we build our plans on?
So, to answer that question, we need to pull back the curtain and have a proper look at what's really going on. Turns out, there are a couple of very human behaviors, a pair of usual suspects, if you will, that are quietly sabotaging our projects right from the start.
Okay, so you've got these two culprits working against you. First up is student syndrome. You know this one. Give someone a task with a 10-day estimate that you know really only takes 6 days, and what happens? They start on day 4 because they know there's a buffer. Then, even if they do finish early, Parkinson's law kicks in. They might polish things that don't need polishing, what we call gold plating, or they just don't report the early finish. And the result? Every scrap of safety time you carefully built in just vanishes into thin air.
But then, back in 1997, this brilliant physicist, Eliyahu Goldratt, came along and just turned the whole world of project management on its head. He looked at this exact problem, applied his theory of constraints, and asked a really radical question. What if our obsession with protecting every single task is the very thing that's making us late? What if we've been protecting the wrong thing all along?
And that one question, well, it leads us straight to the critical chain method. Now, this isn't just another tool for your project management toolkit. Oh no, it's a completely different kettle of fish. It's a whole new philosophy, a fundamental shift from worrying about individual safety to focusing on collective success.
Think of it like this. The way we usually do things is like giving everyone on the team their own little umbrella to deal with a rainstorm. It's just not very efficient, and someone is bound to get soaked. Critical chain, on the other hand, builds one giant shared canopy that protects the entire team. It takes all those hidden, wasted bits of safety time and pulls them together into one big, visible, and actively managed safety net for the entire project.
Okay, so that's the big idea. It sounds pretty compelling, right? But how does it actually work in practice? Let's get down to brass tacks and break down how you actually go about building a critical chain schedule.
First things first, the definition. Now, we all know about the critical path. It's the longest sequence of tasks. The critical chain is similar, but it's properly rooted in reality. It considers not just the tasks, but also the actual people and equipment you need to do them. It knows you can't have your lead developer working on 2 complex jobs at the same time. It's the longest path that is realistically possible with the resources you actually have.
And finding it is a 5-step process. You start as you normally would, but then comes the really radical bit in step 2. You strip out all the padding from your task estimates. You ask your team for the 50% probability duration. That's the no-fluff, most realistic estimate where there's a 50-50 chance they'll finish on or before that time. You then level your resources to find the true longest chain, and only then do you strategically add back that safety time you removed, but in a much, much smarter way.
And the real magic of critical chain, the thing that really makes it all work, lies in its secret weapon, the buffers. Now, these aren't just bits of slack time. They are powerful, strategically placed shock absorbers that help you manage uncertainty and keep the whole project on track.
The most important one is the project buffer. This is a single, clear block of time that you put at the very end of the critical chain right before your delivery date. Its only job is to soak up any and all delays that happen on that critical chain. It's there to protect your promise to the client. A good rule of thumb is to make this buffer about half the length of the critical chain itself.
But what about all the other tasks, the ones that aren't on the critical chain? Well, that's what feeding buffers are for. You place these smaller shock absorbers wherever a non-critical path merges with the critical chain. This stops a delay on some less important task from throwing a spanner in the works and derailing your most vital sequence of jobs.
Now, creating these buffers is only half the battle. Using them effectively, that's where the real change happens. With critical chain, we stop asking, is this task on schedule? And we start asking a much more powerful question. How much of our project's collective safety net have we actually used up?
And this brings us to the single most important metric you're going to track: buffer penetration. It's a beautifully simple way to see the health of your project at a single glance.
It's just the percentage of your buffer that's been eaten up by delays, giving you a real-time, early warning system.
And managing this is incredibly straightforward. You use a simple traffic light system. If your buffer consumption is in the green zone, say under a third, you just keep calm and carry on. The moment you hit the yellow zone, it's time to get a recovery plan ready, just in case. And if you hit the red zone, that triggers immediate, decisive action. It forces you to be proactive, not reactive.
Of course, for any of this to work, it requires a new way of thinking from the entire team. This isn't about having more rigid rules. It's about building a culture of intense focus and open communication. Team members focus on one task until it is done, no multitasking, and they report completion immediately so the next person can start without delay. The whole team gets behind one single objective: protect the chain.
So the benefits of doing all this, shorter project times, much higher reliability, they can be absolutely enormous. But let's be crystal clear about this. Implementing critical chain is not a walk in the park. It represents a massive cultural shift for most organizations.
So, the proof of the pudding. Is critical chain right for you? Well, let's just weigh it up. The advantages are pretty compelling. Faster, more reliable delivery, and incredibly clear monitoring. But the limitations are very real. You will face cultural resistance from people who love their hidden buffers. It demands a new level of focus and discipline, and it might mean learning some new skills.
So the final question isn't really a technical one, it's a leadership one. Are you ready to lead your team away from the false comfort of their individual safety blankets and towards the collective strength of a single, shared safety net? Are you brave enough to really embrace this new way of managing projects? The choice, as they say, is yours. Thanks for joining this explainer.